Okay. All right. Periscope and Trovo are live. D Live and Facebook, 3rd and 4th place. YouTube online now. What's up, everybody? Twitch should be live shortly. TalkStream and JLP Live, TalkStreamLive.com, and JLP Live app or player available via thehakereport.com/show or jesseleepeterson.com/show or rebuildingtheman.com/church, because when we're live on Church with Jesse Lee Peterson on Sundays, the JLP Live player plays that. I am James Hake. This is the Hake Report. It's Wednesday, 9:02 a.m. U.S. Pacific Standard Time, February 24th, 2021. And I will be getting to your calls. Some of you guys are already on hold. Many of you may want to talk about this. As the public goes out of control, the police are more scrutinized. Or do the police do wrong sometimes? And let me pull up my Periscope. I actually was reading about Timothy McVeigh yesterday. Timothy McVeigh being the 1995 Oklahoma City bomber, the primary one. I think there were a couple of guys at least involved. Oklahoma City bombing that killed like 168 people or something like that, including 19 children. I will talk about a little bit of background behind him because I just read up a little bit on him. You know, basic Wikipedia stuff, right? Which is, we all know, extreme left, anti-American. But it's interesting because some of the mainstream media, foreigners especially, call him a neo-Nazi. But that's nowhere to be found on his Wikipedia page. Maybe they're going to have to remedy that. Because I thought of it in part because of this DA, Biden DA, this dinosaur named Merrick Garland, who's not a Christian, not a normal white America-loving Christian, just an evil person saying, oh, I think he said that he prosecuted the white supremacists or something like that with regard to the Oklahoma City. And then he's crying white supremacists at the Capitol siege, as they try to call it, right? Hardly a siege. Some of the people were a little excessively aggressive, right? Hardly a siege, though. But he's crying white supremacists, which I know of no white supremacists, so-called. And by the way, people don't even call themselves neo-Nazis. I don't know of anybody who called themselves that. And so it's crazy. It's out of control. Ahmaud Arbery, there was a big protest because it's the 1-year anniversary, and it's the 1-year anniversary since he got killed in the street. Remember that case where the guy who was fighting with the white young man over the shotgun, the white man shot him with the shotgun, and he turned and started to jog off, and he just collapsed. Brutal. But it was he brought it on himself when he attacked the guy. Not wise. But maybe the white guys were unwise to give chase to him, even though they were trying to conduct a lawful citizen's arrest. All kinds of stuff going on. Feminism in China. And also, I looked into Abraham Lincoln, Honest Abe. Did you know that he had correspondence with Karl Marx? It is true. I saw it in the chat and I was like, is that true? Yeah. Turned out that there is some truth to the Marxism in the early Republican Party. Crazy. So I read up about that too. I may present some of that as well. All that in your calls, 888-775-3773. Let's get on with the show.
1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, it's the Hake Report. The Hake Report. La la la. Oh, it's the Hake Report. The Hake Report. La la la.
Hey guys!
Oh, it's the Hake Report. The Hake Report. La la la. Oh, it's the Hake Report. The Hake Report. La la la.
So, how is that? Is that enough bass in my voice? Skip? I don't know. I don't know if I can be extra loud unless my voice goes higher. Because you know, when you talk lower, it sounds quieter. I don't know. To me. Anyway, you know, before I get to, I do want to get to, my first call will probably be Art in Ohio. He wants to comment and maybe get my thoughts on that woman who was shot by cops in front of her children. She was charging at officers with a knife, and it sounded like she said, Allahu Akbar. Crazy. And I don't know what the circumstances are of her baby daddy dying or going away or something like that, because supposedly the children lost their father. I don't know if lost to prison or lost to a divorce or a breakup or between the parents, or lost to death. Did he die? Looked like the boyfriend, purported boyfriend in the photograph of that woman was black. But anyway, I will get to that. First, let me talk about this Timothy McVeigh thing, because it's just kind of interesting, and I want to get to it. I don't want to drag it out across multiple days. So according to Wikipedia, Timothy James McVeigh, born April 23rd, 1968, died June 11th, 2001, executed. And they executed him pretty quickly. Was an American domestic terrorist who carried out the 4/19/95, April 19th, 1995, Oklahoma City bombing, 2 years to the day since federal troops ended the 51-day siege at the Branch Davidian sect compound near Waco, Texas. It was in revenge for the Waco in which the government killed a bunch of American citizens who were in, like, purportedly a cult. But the Oklahoma City bombing killed 168 people, injured more than 680 others. Look at the chunk that they took out of this building. That was the work of that white terrorist Timothy McVeigh, white supremacist, as some might call him. Destroyed a third of the Alfred P. Murrah Federal Building. Look at that thing. That building was not a modern or fancy shape, even though it looks like it has this modern, fancy curvature in the design. If you look at the footprint, post bombing, that was just the result of the bombing. It was basically a rectangular-shaped building, basically, right? With curved corners and a little bit of a jut out in one side. But anyway, I mean, I think there's a black and white building. Look, there's a famous photograph, an award-winning photograph of a firefighter carrying a child who was still alive, but I think he died after this. Bloodied face on the child. I don't think that that's too graphic, but it is a little disturbing for emotional people. But I didn't think it was too bad. But maybe it is kind of bad. Look, there's the building before it was blown up. And the side of the building, just that part that's looking at a harsh angle to us, or to the left of us, that thing was exploded. He parked a truck with, I think they used fertilizer or something like that. Anyway. He was a Gulf War veteran, Timothy McVeigh was. There's a photograph, Joel Friday here. He's showing an excerpt of an article, I think it might have been BBC, about the incident a few years later. McVeigh could not forgive the Waco assault, and it's showing a small photograph, not very good quality photograph, of just black smoke and fire in a Waco assault by the federal government against American citizens. Was that under Clinton? I think it might have been. While on death row, McVeigh asked a friend to pass on to a London newspaper a 3-page letter detailing why he carried out this bombing. In the letter entitled "Why I Bombed the Murrah Building," he explains he lost patience after waiting for the government to apologize for Waco. I reached the decision to go on the offensive, to put a check on the government abuse of power, where others had failed in stopping the federal juggernaut running amok. Borrowing from a page from U.S. foreign policy, he's justifying his evil for evil, right? I decided to send a message to the government that was becoming increasingly hostile by bombing a government building and the government employees within that building who represent that government. Crazy, huh? Reminds me of ISIS. And actually reminds me of some in the government who are just malicious, vindictive people. There he is. after the attack, he's dressed up in the orange jumpsuit. Look at that. The destruction. Cars messed up. This was, I think it might have been a couple of days after the bombing. Just, whew, destroyed a chunk of the building. He was a Gulf War veteran. The first Gulf War in the early 90s. I remember I was in like early grade school, maybe third, fourth grade. Fourth grade, I think. McVeigh sought revenge against the federal government for the 1993 Waco siege. He went there. He went to the Waco thing because it was like many days, many weeks, several weeks, 4 weeks, and 4 or 5 weeks that ended in the deaths of 86 people, 86 Americans, many of whom were children, as well as the 1992 Ruby Ridge incident, which I'm not as familiar with, Ruby Ridge, but it was another incident in which the government went against Americans. There was a sniper who shot like a pregnant woman and killed her. And this Timothy McVeigh guy wanted to, like, he wrote hate mail to this, I think it was an Asian FBI agent or a sniper guy, right? Killed an American woman, I think. And American foreign policy. He didn't like our foreign policy. This is Timothy McVeigh, the terrorist guy. He hoped to inspire a revolution against the federal government and defended the bombing as a legitimate tactic against what he saw as a tyrannical government. Just kind of like John Brown, right? John Brown. Except John Brown wasn't able to kill as many people. John Brown was the anti-slavery terrorist, right? From maybe 100 years before, 150 years, I don't know. McVeigh was executed by lethal injection, June 11th, 2001. That's just over 6 years after the incident. Usually it takes forever to execute these people. Look, there he is in his mugshot. Young-looking guy, but he was in his 40s, early 40s. But he looked young. I think he was in his early 40s. In Terre Haute, Indiana, execution carried out in a considerably shorter time than most inmates awaiting the death penalty. And I am for swift justice. In fact, I think it should be less than 6 years when a person commits a crazy crime. But I find it interesting that they expedited this guy and not other horrific criminals. Because this guy went after the feds, right? You go after the feds, they go after you extra hard. They don't care about the normal people. They don't care about the regular people as much as they do the feds. Reminds me of this Capitol attack, right? They want to come down extra hard on these people. Meanwhile, Black Lives Matter and Antifa did far more damage to far more people and their livelihoods and killing people and all that. And they don't care. There have been no Senate hearings about it. Anyway, it's just kind of a side note. Reminds me also of, that guy Dylan Roof who went to the church and mass murdered a bunch of black church members in one of the Carolinas a few years ago. They went right after him and tried to get the death penalty, and they got the death penalty. He hasn't been executed yet. But Loretta Lynch, the black female Obama Attorney General, not because they believe in justice, but they believe in this white supremacy thing and a threat to our way of being, whatever. Anyway, this guy was supposedly, Timothy McVeigh, he was the only son and the second of 3 children of Irish Americans. One of them had a long history in America. After his parents divorced when he was 10 years old, a child of divorce, not good for a young man, 10 years old. He was raised by his father in New York. McVeigh claimed to have been a target of bullying at school, and he took refuge in a fantasy world where he imagined retaliating against the bullies. And you see all these anti-bullying campaign, they became what they hate. Many of these liberal anti-bully campaign people, they become what they hate. And this guy became what he hated. Retaliating against the bullies. At the end of his life, he stated his belief the United States government is the ultimate bully. And it reminds me of like a rebellious child, right? A rebellious child against bad parents. The child may be right in some of his complaints about the parents, but don't be angry about it. And I think that that's part of the lesson. in Timothy McVeigh's case was anger was the problem. The deceivers who misdiagnosed the problems want to blame white supremacy and anti-government sentiment. He wouldn't have been so extreme had he not been angry. And there's a psychiatrist who actually backs me up on this. I'll get to that. Most who knew McVeigh remember him as being very shy and withdrawn. A few described him as outgoing and playful as a child who withdrew as an adolescent. And isn't that always the way? And I'm not talking about people who become mass murderers. I'm talking about human beings in general, especially men. It seems like I remember seeing young people, children, they're bright, their laugh is free, they're confident, they're no fear. And then and innocent, kind of. And then as they get into adolescence, teenager, just before teenager, they become quieter, more subdued, less innocent, less real, less genuine. I noticed that. Same thing happened with this guy. He is said to have had only one girlfriend as an adolescent, later told journalists he did not have any idea how to impress girls. Wow. And I wonder if some of this stuff is kind of a psyop. You know, they try to go after, it's kind of a attack. You know, like there's this anti-incel attack, right? Anyway, kind of victim blaming. While in high school, McVeigh became interested in computers. He hacked into the government computer systems on his Commodore 64 under the handle The Wanderer, taken from some song, right, during that time. His senior year, he was named most promising computer programmer of Starpoint Central High School, had relatively poor grades until 86 graduation. His IQ was supposedly 126 for those of you who know anything about IQ. Lin Yin Chin, was that good? I think it's above average, right? He was 32, says Michelle 67. Oh, okay, that makes more sense because he looked pretty young. Was he an incel? The Wikipedia section that I'm about to read is written weird. Is it written weirdly or written weird? It mentions that he claimed the military put a computer chip in his buttocks. And I think that could be a misinterpretation. Maybe. I'm just purely speculating. I could easily hear him imagine somebody saying, oh, they chipped my A, you know? Because it's like a slang way of saying, it's an idiom, meaning they put a chip in me somewhere. It doesn't necessarily mean, anyway. That's just a side note. Could have been anywhere in the body, but somebody took it literally. I just don't know. And I'm wondering if this following is kind of a psyop. This is weird. It's like not really professionally written, even though it's on Wikipedia. I know they're not professionals who write it, but usually they write this better than this. But this actually says, McVeigh worked long hours in a dead-end job and felt that he did not have a home. It doesn't say he felt that he worked long hours at what he felt was a dead-end job. It called it a dead-end job. He sought romance, but his advances were rejected by a coworker, and he felt nervous around women. He believed he brought too much pain to his loved ones. He grew angry and frustrated at his difficulties in finding a girlfriend. That made me think incel, because they try to cast incels as terrorists. It's interesting. They cast incels as terrorists. The mainstream media does, right? There's this major anti-incel thing, because there's a lot of incels who are just grown adult males, usually, who, some of them are not adults yet, who have grown to resent women and feminism and stuff like that. And some of them are anti-feminist, right? But it's funny because there have been guys who, they talk very mean about women sometimes, or just truth about women. And so there's a media attack on them. It's crazy. And there have been some attacks by actual so-called incels, such as the Supreme Gentleman. Remember up in Isla Vista near Santa Barbara, California, a few years ago or several years ago? That mixed race, son of a Hollywood producer or something, who married a white or Jewish guy who married a Asian woman. And this guy, I'm blanking on his name, but he called himself the Supreme Gentleman. You girls. Elliot Rogers. Yeah, thank you. He went and killed some people. He was going after girls, but he killed some guys too. And then there was a Muslim or a foreign guy who went and truck attacked some people more recently. And he was called an incel. All kinds of stuff. He took up obsessive gambling, this Timothy McVeigh guy did. Unable to pay gambling debts, he took a cash advance, defaulted on his repayments, began looking to live in a place without heavy government regulation and high taxes. He was enraged, reportedly, when the government told him he had been overpaid $1,058 while in the army, and he had to pay back the money. Wow. So he wrote this angry letter to the government saying, go ahead, take everything I own, take my dignity, feel good as you grow fat and rich at my expense, sucking my tax dollars and property. Drama. Man. He introduced his sister to anti-government literature. Apparently tried to do that with his father too, but his father had little interest. He moved out of his father's house into an apartment that had no phone. His work couldn't contact him for overtime. He quit the NRA because they were too weak on gun rights, which probably there's some truth to that. Was he a white supremacist? I say no. It's hardly a root. They pretend like this is the root issue. The root issue of Timothy McVeigh was white supremacy. It's just a shallow side note. Here are some details. He was reprimanded by the military for purchasing a white power t-shirt at a Ku Klux Klan protest. You can just just go through like a slideshow of pictures of him in general. Oh, and I didn't realize he was working. We have the engineer in here fixing things as well. He wore a white power t-shirt, but listen to this. And he supposedly got it at a KKK protest. This is America, right? You have the right. But anyway, he apparently was... Either he or he and some buddies were objecting to black servicemen in the army who wore black power t-shirts around a military installation. So he was responding to the blacks being all into their blackness. Why can't I be into my whiteness? So that's not white supremacist. Give me a break. After being promoted, he earned a reputation. Yeah, Timothy McVeigh. After being promoted, he earned a reputation for assigning undesirable work to black servicemen and using racial slurs. Who didn't use racial slurs in the army? Give me a break. That's part of it. I would hope. In an interview before his execution, he said he decapitated an Iraqi soldier with cannon fire on his first day in the war and celebrated. He was later shocked to be ordered, he said, to execute surrendering prisoners and see carnage on the road when leaving Kuwait City. This is under Bush the Daddy. After troops routed the army, he received several service awards. He was great as a shooter, I think. He wanted to be special forces, but it didn't work out. He left the army, honorably discharged in 1991, but 4 years later, he carried out that crazy attack. Toured the country and going to gun shows and things like that. He was very pro-Second Amendment. The NRA wasn't so-called extreme enough, or should I say, based enough. McVeigh frequently quoted and alluded to the white supremacist novel, that's Wikipedia's term, The Turner Diaries, which is described by biography.com as an anti-government tome by neo-Nazi William Pierce. And it basically has references to trying to overthrow the government. By the way, biography.com kisses up to Black History Month. Has a whole tab for it. Some Australian writer in 2017 called Timothy McVeigh a self-proclaimed neo-Nazi, which I don't think that that's true. At least not from what I've found. Wouldn't you think that Wikipedia would have mentioned that if that were true? Anyway, it's nowhere to be found. The term neo nor Nazi are in a Wikipedia page. Sloppy source. It's a woman who wrote that in 2017. In that article, they referenced the far-left communist anti-American Southern Poverty Law Center, SPLC. This writer, Bill Moreland, or investigative journalist or whatever he calls himself, He said there seems to be present day, or at least in the last few years, growing admiration for Timothy McVeigh in some extremist circles. He claims that one militia honcho, you know, I'm talking about present day, even likened Timothy McVeigh to Jesus Christ. But the SPLC needs to check themselves, honestly. It's interesting. This guy was concerned about feds. Are you a fed? He wrote some letter to a recruit to try to recruit this customer of his, because he was a working man at some point. Steve Colbert. He said, a man left with nothing to lose is a very dangerous man, and his energy/anger can be focused toward a common/righteous goal. Sounds misguided to me. Anyway, he said, he went on and said, I'm not looking for talkers, I'm looking for fighters. And if you're a Fed, think twice. Think twice before about the Constitution you're supposedly enforcing. Isn't enforcing freedom an oxymoron? And think twice about catching us with our guard down. You will lose, and your family will lose. Man, melodramatic. There was all this drama about 19 children getting killed because there was a daycare center in this building, that federal building that he blew up. In the second floor, in the corner where he blew it up. And I think he said something like, had he known, he would have targeted a different portion of the building or did something different, done targeted assassinations instead. But his accomplice said that they knew and didn't care. And so who knows what the truth is. And anyway, is killing innocent adults better than killing children? Innocent children? I don't think so. But there's all this female mindset drama about that. He said, I thought it was terrible there were children in the building. He went on 60 Minutes. Yeah, SPLC and ACLU are both hate groups. Full of hate. Full of hatred. Anyway, this is such an eye roll. Psychiatrist concluded he had major depressive, narcissistic personality and schizotypal personality disorders. That's that atheistic, communistic society with their false diagnoses of what's really going on. At root, that's not what was going on. Those were just symptoms. After examining him in prison, another psychiatrist named John Smith concluded that McVeigh was a decent person who had allowed rage to build up inside him to the point that he had lashed out in one terrible violent act. See? Rage. He was raised Catholic, but he ended up being kind of agnostic. He said science was his religion. He did not believe in hell. Science is his religion. See? That secularization. Messed up family. Child of divorce. Anyway, mainstream media is, the mainstream media, Rachel Maddow, she narrated some feature about him 15 years afterwards, in like 2010, on MSNBC. She's a commentator. She narrates this film called Timothy McVeigh, The McVeigh Tapes, Confessions of an American Terrorist. And it's this cringy thing where you hear a recording, and then this actor plays like he's talking, like he's saying McVeigh's words. It's just crazy. Rachel Maddow, give me a break. That's that lesbian, anti-Trump, anti-American MSDNC host. So, anyway, count on them never to be able to diagnose or solve the problem. They're gonna attack the decent people, right? Anyway, let me get to some calls. I got to get to Art in Ohio. He wants to comment on this woman who was shot by cops in front of her kids. What's up, Art? How you doing?
Man, I'm all right. How you doing, Hake?
Doing fine, thank you.
Okay, so, yeah, man, I appreciate you for giving me the disclaimer. Yeah, man. Art, I don't bar none. I'm hard on the female. I'm hard on the libtard females. I don't bar none. And I don't bar none from the beta males to the alpha males. Big, skinny, fat, tall, yellow, purple. Long story short, that lady who was waving that knife and at that cop.
Yeah.
I want to go ahead and tell the cop that I am very disappointed in that cop, man. You want to know why I'm very disappointed in him, Hake?
Why?
Because I heard 3 dang on shots go off. I need to hear when next time a female or a dude run up with a knife, I need to hear 1 shot. I don't need to hear 2, 3 shots. You need to put that shot right in he should have put that shot right in the middle of her dang on head. And anybody else that want to run up on a cop with a knife, they need to be shot right in the middle of their head too. And that goes for Jacob, Blake. You want to play with knives, you get shot again.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? And shout out to the Black Lives Matter down there in Nevada. You see what I'm saying? So, and I ain't even mad at you, sweetie, because all that stuff you libtards is talking down there in Nevada, trying to hype everybody up. Ain't nobody listening to y'all, man. Ain't nobody following behind you. Ain't nobody following behind you, libtard females, let alone a female, anyways, unless you're trying to be 6 feet under.
So the people,
so
the people listening can know what's going on. I mentioned earlier this show about this woman who was outdoors with a knife with her young children, and then she started charging at some officers with this knife who responded on the scene. I guess she was having an episode, right?
Yeah.
And then afterwards, some Black Lives Matter supporters or a relative of this woman said that the cops should have shot her in the arm and that they were wrong and they shot her in front of her kids. That's her fault. It's her fault.
Well, of course, somebody who don't have no gun training or know anything about anything that a boy would be doing would be trying to make it seem something that's hard as shooting a weapon seem easy. Guarantee that lady who said that ain't never shot a gun in her life, never even touched to pick one up.
Yeah.
So my
shoot him in the arm. Give me a break.
Yeah, shoot him in the arm. But this comes from somebody don't know how to work a gun, never seen a gun. They just going off what they hear about stuff. Long story short, man, not to be, I'm just getting tired of, what I'm seeing is, just like I had been saying, is that, just like Jesse said, they are inducing panic. Because now these kids that just lost what I want to call it, the beta Muslim terrorist mom that was screaming Allah Akbar, whatever she was on.
Yeah. Now
you're going to have them kids growing up in America thinking that the police killed her mom unjustified,
right? Not
understanding that your mom got herself killed.
Yeah.
Running up on somebody with a knife.
Great point.
And you got the Black Lives Matter people out here pushing it. So yeah, they are inciting violence, man, because they clearly see that lady was disturbed and she was crazy. And then you sitting up here trying to tell the society that we didn't see something that we seen.
I know. It's terrible.
Again.
And people are it's bad enough that the adults are such suckers that they believe this stuff, but think about the children. They have no other choice, pretty much, but to be brainwashed in this madness.
Yeah, Hey, tell Vitamin D, I ain't bitter, buddy, but I'm going to tell you this.
Which one's Vitamin D? Who's Vitamin D?
Yeah, somebody in the chat talking about our sound bitter. Nah, I ain't bitter. Nah, I like to tell the truth. You see what I'm saying? I'm getting tired of seeing a lot of these females running around here acting like they got everything under control just because they might have a little paycheck or they might just be in a position, but they don't know what they talking about. Have literally no idea what they talking about, and I'm not about to be just sitting back and let stuff keep going and spiraling down as fast as it is.
Right.
Everybody see what's going on, so no, I'm not bitter. I'm just speaking the facts, and I'm standing up for what's right. And Vitamin D, if you don't like it, man, I don't know what to tell you because I ain't going nowhere, partner. Yeah, straight up. I ain't nobody bitter. I'm getting tired of the nonsense,
Vitamin
man.
D's waving at us.
Yeah, keep on waving. And and then the sad part is you got these same females out here just like that crazy Looney Tune. What made her snap like that? You see what I'm saying?
I have no idea, but it's a long time coming.
It's a long time coming. So you got females like that are raising these kids, man.
Right.
He is disturbed. Now, when it keeps getting worse and worse, you're going to have females that are emotional like this, and they don't have no hope or the future seems grim to them. They don't have maybe an alpha male or a male that's logical thinking to tell them it's going to be all right. They dealing with all these betas.
Yeah.
One more thing, I'm going to get off here.
Yeah.
I heard that a lot of these celebrities, one in particular named Beyonce, they got they in these so-called cults, allegedly.
I've heard stuff like that, yeah.
And well, no, I heard that it's a lot. Most of them celebrities, they all go to the same dude, and it just made me think when I heard that. Yeah, they are in the cult, and so since they in the cult, the listeners, like the girls that listen to their music, like people that watch like Oprah's show, now they push that cult-like energy on you. You see what I'm saying?
By this dude you're talking about, Satan? I'm surprised it's not a woman.
Well, I don't know who he is. I just heard. I'm just.
Well, for sure they're in a cult because they're in a cult of evil. Otherwise, they wouldn't be pushing this.
Well, they worshiping rocks and they on that spit. They on that second. What's that word I'm looking for? Like she has an alter ego.
Oh yeah,
basically
Sasha Fierce.
So what these females don't understand is with that alter ego, where you being put up under hypnosis, you interjecting and letting the spirit be able to come in your body, and that's what Beyonce did. And see the difference between the dude who's they in the cult with. He might be like a high level. He might be like a high-level warlock. A lot of these people out here running around in society, they're low-level warlocks, so they don't know how to do it. But whoever Beyonce and these other people like Oprah and all these other celebrities and politicians is hooked up with, they don't understand that, they are putting spirits inside of them, and that's what's going on in America and the world, because you got people that's on TV like Mary that's thinking that she's a Christian and knowing something about God. The last caller was talking to Jesse. When every time a female open up her mouth talking about, I don't listen to my husband, baby, if you don't listen to your husband any shape or form, you just told on yourself. And that's what alpha men like me are able to do. We able to discern through the BS. I've been doing it since I was 12 years old, and I ain't stopped doing it. So y'all liberal dudes and liberal females, I see right through you. God bless you, hey.
Thank you, Art. Appreciate it. Good to hear from you.
Yes, sir.
Very nice. BS bogus speech, guys. Bogus speech. Wow. I want to get to Cassandra out of Arizona. Wants to talk about a TikTok group. Cassandra, it's been a long time. Haven't heard from you in a while. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing fine. Thank you. So what's up?
There's these two cults on TikTok. One is trying to burn Bibles, and the cult leader is trying to get people to worship her. And then the second cult is trying to stop the people from worshiping her. And I just wanted to know if you should think that we should stop both of these cults.
That's interesting. So one is a pro-Bible burning cult, one that likes to burn Bibles and follow a woman. And then the other, you're calling the other one that wants to stop them from doing that also a cult?
I really call it a cult, but it's really just a group or club.
Yeah.
Like the second one is really bad, so I'm calling it a cult because it's bad.
Okay.
But the first one, the cult that's trying to stop this, I'm calling it a cult because it's just a group.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, you can speak out against them, but they have the freedom to do the mess that they're doing, and forcing them to stop isn't going to change their hearts. It's just going to make them bitter. It's kind of like forcing people to not discriminate and all kinds of stuff. So it's good to debunk that if you can, if you get the opportunity, or say, this is ridiculous, you guys are being silly, you should not be following a woman, and you have no business burning any Bibles. The Bible is not your problem. But I would stay away from them if I were you. I wouldn't even look at those TikTok channels, or whatever they're called, TikTok accounts. I would just stay away.
Yeah, but the thing is that one of the cults that that I support
Yeah.
is the one that's trying to stop them. And
Okay.
the thing
That's
that
fair.
is annoying that cult into stopping them is that they're threatening little kids, like they're targeting children.
Which
to
so
try
the
and get-
so the Bible
to try and
burners
get-
are threatening children?
No, the Bible burners are threatening children and telling them that they're going to get cooked in soup if they don't join.
They're going to get cooked
In soup if they don't
in
join.
soup. Well, that's crazy. So they should be
Yeah.
reported. They should be
Yeah,
reported to TikTok and to the police.
Yeah, but the second cult that is fighting against the Bible burners
Yeah.
is trying to tell the kids that they're not going to get burned in soup. They're not going to get. They don't have to worship this person, this devil of a person, and we're just trying to get kids to stop falling for her tricks.
Yeah.
And there's just
You know, I think that the role is the parents to lead their children right rather than a TikTok group. It's nice if a TikTok group does want to put the truth out there and fight against evil. I like that. But we need parents to be leading their children right and not letting their children be on TikTok, because after a certain point, you shouldn't even be, even a child should not be falling for such a cult as that. Even without any supervision, they should be able to just see that that's evil. Killing, threatening kids about burning them in soup. And is this like a big trend or something that I'm not aware of? Is this
No,
all
it's
happening
like-
in Arizona, or where is it happening?
it's happening all over TikTok. Any
Wow.
type of like in like all parts of the world, just people
Yeah.
are
Remind,
in both cults.
have you ever heard of Slender Man?
Yeah.
Is it kind of like that?
Not really.
Okay. Yeah, it doesn't seem exactly like that, because it seems like it's more widespread than that. Weird.
And the cult, the Bible burner cult, the name of it is the Lana Del Rey cult, so I'm going to continue calling it that.
Lana Del
Right.
Rey cult? Is that after that
Yeah.
singer, that devilish singer? I call her devilish. The popular
yeah,
singer?
I'm pretty sure.
Wow. Yeah, you
And
know,
that,
the culture has turned so evil, including
Yeah.
like mainstream people who are accepted and embraced in the mainstream pop culture. Because Lana Del Rey is like probably considered an upstanding citizen by half the country or more.
yeah, but she's the one that burned the Bibles and started this entire cult.
Wow. Is she knowingly leading a cult, or did she just burn a Bible in a music video and then everybody followed her bad example and turned
Nope,
it into a religion?
She's completely aware. She's
Wow.
completely aware.
I'll have to look into that. I appreciate this tip, Cassandra. But
Yeah.
don't get too worked up about what other people are doing, because evil is always going to be around. But it is a shame and it is evil that they're misleading children.
Yeah, all
Joel,
of my
he said
friends
tasty.
that are
Oh.
most of my friends that are on TikTok
Yeah.
are actually joining the cult.
How
and
old are
they're
your
trying to
friends?
get me to- they're about 10. They're joining the hamster cult, which is the one trying to stop the Bible burners.
Aren't you older than 10? Or are you 10?
No,
Okay.
I'm 10.
Okay.
I'm turning 11 in July.
All right. And you're calling with your parent or guardian's permission. Am I right?
Yes,
Okay.
I'm calling with mother's permission.
Yeah,
don't know
I knew
why
that.
called her that.
That's just for the benefit of the audience. Some people get weird. Well, I appreciate the tip. Make sure you, as the Bible says, remove the plank out of your own eye before you try, so that you can see clearly to remove the planks out of your friends' eyes. And if your friends are trying to get you to join this thing, maybe you don't need to be hanging around those friends. And maybe they can come
No.
back when they can come back and hang around with you when they become normal again.
No, like, they're encouraging me because they're being nice about it, and they're trying and they're telling me that the hamster cult is actually like a really nice cult, and we're all friends.
The hamster cult is the one that's fighting against the Bible burners?
Yes.
Against Lana Del Rey cult?
Yep.
Okay. So your friends are joined the hamster cult. And you call it it doesn't sound right to call it a cult and have you say that you support a cult, because a cult usually means a bad thing.
Okay.
Just so you know.
I start calling it the hamster club?
Maybe, but if other people are already calling it a cult, and if it's, I don't know, maybe you don't need to be joining this hamster club thing.
Okay. Well, it's about mixed emotions on it. Some people call it a club, some people call it a cult, some people call it a group. Mostly the haters call it a cult, but I just call it a cult because that's another word for group.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that's fair. I mean, if you think about it, the Democrat Party is a cult. In some ways, the Republican Party is a cult. People believe in politics and in their fake version of science instead of real, true religion, you know? True religion, according to the Bible, that God accepts, is looking after orphans and widows in their distress, actual ones, right? And keeping yourself from being polluted by the world. And that's a big one. People just pollute. They just get polluted by the world and participate in polluting others, including kids in the world, children. And that's the real religion. The whole rest of it is fake. And the whole rest of it is cult.
Well, the hamster cult got quite a lot of kids to not be scared of the Lana Del Rey cult without being cooked in soup.
That's nice. But it should be parents. Don't you agree? It should be parents? Because TikTok is not the answer. I mean, it's just a platform on which you can spread the truth or lies.
Yeah, I do believe it should be a parents, but some kids don't tell their parents what's going on because they're too scared to. So,
are they doing anything other than burning the Bible? Because that's, even though it's dumb, it's misguided, it's kind of harmless. Except that you have no business playing with fire if you're a child. Yeah,
but she's saying that God is like evil. She's just saying all this messed up stuff about God.
Let them say it. That's what I say. Let them say it. You be an example. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because people get too worked up about social media and the power of social media when your own life in person is potentially much more powerful or not for what's right or for evil. You know what I mean? Your life is your platform. So just live your life and don't get over involved in the mess is my advice. You can definitely do what you want. You're in the situation, you know what's going on, but you maybe nose up to it making it seem more, which makes it seem more important than it really is. When you focus on a situation, you start to think of it as, it starts to feel more important than it actually is. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah, so it may be wise to just back off, lay off of TikTok. I don't think, honestly, that anybody 10 years old or even really honestly 14 years old has much business being on TikTok for more than 5 minutes a day, if at all. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get it.
It's a time waster. It's drama and mess. A lot of it is degenerate. Degenerate meaning like immoral. So when I was a kid, we didn't even have cell phones. Smartphones, much less cell phones. Anyway, I appreciate the call, Cassandra. What do you think of that? What do you think of my advice? Just to lay off of that.
I think it's really good advice, and that most kids should follow.
Yeah, but just you follow it, and then don't worry about the other kids, because you called me for advice, right? Or my thoughts?
Well, I called you to get your vision on it and see if you should see if, like, I just wanted to know what you thought of it.
Yeah.
And then I wanted to tell you about it and then see what you thought of it after.
Right. What do your parents think of it?
Dad doesn't go on TikTok, so he doesn't know. And I told Mom last night.
So
and she thinks that it's bad that they're burning Christian Bibles.
Right. Which it is, but let them be silly. Some of them will probably come around and snap out of it. It's just a phase, honestly.
Yeah, but the thing is that there's about 1,000 or 2,000 people in the Lana Del Rey cult.
Yeah.
And about 5,000 people in the Hamster Club.
Oh, so you guys are outnumbering the bad guys.
Yeah.
But that makes me leery of the Hamster Club because there's probably a lot of bad apples in the Hamster Club.
Well, all of us are really helping the case that Lana Del Rey is, like, really evil and that the hamsters are trying to help people.
That's nice. But Lana Del Rey is exposing herself as evil. She doesn't need... You don't really necessarily even... I don't know if you guys need the hamsters to expose Lana Del Rey as evil. Maybe. But it shouldn't be a major focus, is all I'm saying.
Yeah, I get it.
And it sounds like your dad has the right idea. Don't know, don't care.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I'd say go to your dad. If you agree. You don't have to agree, but that's what I suggest. Because sometimes, you know how fathers and men don't really care? Because it's really not a big deal.
Okay.
Anyway, I appreciate talking with you, Cassandra. Thank you for the tip. I wasn't aware of all this mess.
Okay. Also, I was going to compliment you on how well you're running the show, and you're doing a really good job.
Nice. Appreciate it. Are you in school, but you have to stay home, or are you in school? Or what's going on?
Oh, I'm in, I'm doing work from home.
Oh, yeah. Is it because of the shutdowns?
Yes, but on March 1st, we are going back, I think.
Are you excited about that?
Yeah.
Nice.
I want to see my friends again.
I bet. Yeah. Well, congratulations, Cassandra. I wish you well. Nice talking with you again.
Yeah, it's nice talking with you again, too.
All right, take care.
Bye.
Bye. That's cool, I think. Colby is a first-time caller in Kansas. Wants to comment on Joe Biden's gun laws. What's up, Colby?
Mr. Hake, how are you, buddy?
I'm doing fine. How are you?
Very good, man. Hey, I just wanted to say that I enjoy your show. I've actually called up Jesse and have spoke with him a few times. So, yeah, I like what you guys do. I actually just wanted to get your opinion on Joe Biden's gun laws that he's trying to pass, because I am a avid duck hunter, and I'm a big supporter of the Second Amendment. And I actually don't think that gun violence in this country is as big of a problem as Joe Biden makes it out to be.
Yeah.
And it seems like that it seems like what he and his cronies are kind of doing is, treating all gun owners as criminals. And, what I've always said is most of the gun violence in this country usually occurs in poor neighborhoods. So I think it has more to do with poverty than it does the actual gun itself. And I don't know, like the stuff that he's talking about, and some of the bills that some of his colleagues are trying to pass, they will likely not get through the Supreme Court. But it's still pretty scary to see all this anti-gun rhetoric, and a lot of these people don't even know what a semi-automatic weapon is, much less any real data about guns. So
right.
I just kind of wanted your take on that.
I think that the term gun violence is a subversive word to pretend that the guns are the root of the violence, or I get it that with guns you can commit more violence more efficiently, but that's part of life. That's part of present day reality. And you want the government to be the only ones to have those guns? Well, should I say the government and the cartels and the gang members, et cetera, the criminals? And that guy from the, and that Las Vegas, Nevada terrorist. I don't know what his motives were. We don't know his motives, but seems like an act of terrorism. And the other thing is, I disagree with you that it's a poverty issue. Poverty does not cause crime. It is, you can correlate it with crime because they commonly happen together, but there's a whole lot of criminals who are rich. And
that's true.
And
that's true.
They're poor because they're immoral, and they're violent because they're immoral. It doesn't have much to do with so-called desperation or anything else. They're corrupt. They're immoral people. And so they turn to the easy way, the drugs and the mess, and they don't have fathers, so they're more attracted to the gangs as a fake imitation of family, and government as a fake imitation of family. So it is.
I can see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see what you're saying, and I actually run a men's group, and we talk about how fatherlessness is a big problem. So yeah, I agree, man. And I had heard somebody mention something about Jacob Blake earlier, and it is interesting because people when they get arrested, and any good attorney worth his salt will say that when you're getting arrested, just assert your right to remain silent and shut up.
Yeah.
And if you feel that the cops have done anything wrong, fight it through the justice system. Like
right.
That was the stupidest thing that Jacob Blake could have done was to resist arrest, try to go for a knife, whatever he was doing. The best advice that I could give anybody, and I mean I'm not a attorney, so I can't really give legally advice, but they always tell you that you have a right to remain silent. And the stupidest thing that you could do is to give the government any ammunition to prosecute you by resisting arrest like that.
Yeah, you know what? And the system is so lenient and favorable to any black who complains that if they behave themselves, they'll more than likely get, their version of so-called justice if they stay calm. But the problem is, a lot of these guys are out of control. You can't rationally tell them, hey, they won't listen to reason. And when you're in the heat of the moment, if you're prone to be out of control like that, because you've been raised and lived a life of being out of control, such as, well, Jacob Blake being the guy from Kenosha who they said, put the knife down. He was supposedly breaking up a fight between women, or he showed up and they called the cops on him, these black women. And he tried to get into his SUV. A taser didn't work, so they shot him in the back. At close range, he wouldn't put down the knife. Several times they shot. 4 went into him. But you're right. It's the problem is some of these guys have experienced jail, and jail is so corrupt and such an evil place that some of these guys are desperate not to go back. They'll risk anything not to go back to jail. And there is an attack on men right now too, where men, period, whether they're white or black, will go to jail, or they have to do this. The woman will accuse him, and many times it's not the man's fault, or they'll have to pay this child support stuff. If you don't pay this child support stuff, you go to jail. It's a big mess right now, and so there are injustices, but just that's why you got to drop the anger. People have to drop the anger because it just turns people insane. And
all this have to understand.
Yeah, go for it.
Well, these guys have to understand. These guys have to understand, though, that don't put yourself in these types of positions in the first place. Do your best to stay out of trouble. And the worst things that men can get into in life, they could prevent by avoiding drugs, a crazy woman, the government, and law enforcement. If you can avoid those 4 things in your life, you will save yourself a lot of trouble. And these guys should just use common sense. Yeah, and I actually brought that up in my men's group the other day, and I said it in a funny way, so they all thought that I was pretty funny in saying that. But I mean, if you break down those 4 things, and if you can avoid those 4 things, you'll save yourself a lot of trouble.
But the root of it, because good luck talking some sense into a person who, in the heat of the moment, they just go insane. You know how anger drives people insane. That's why they call it mad, I think. Yeah. Mad means crazy, but also means angry, because you're mad with anger.
Yep.
And so I think getting rid of the anger will be better, because sometimes people can't help themselves but to get into some kind of illicit thing, such as women or drugs or whatever, or run-ins with the cops, because these guys are so far gone, man. Your rational white talk is not getting to the root issue. It's addressing how to avoid these symptoms, but the root is anger, and it's still going to destroy their lives, one way or another.
Well, and I want to see black people succeed. I want to see white people succeed. I want to see all people succeed. But the fact is, people do have to exercise some sort of common sense logic to say, okay, bad things might happen sometimes. So you might run into a bad cop once in a while who has bad moral character. But if you don't put yourself in those positions to get yourself into trouble, you're far more likely to stay on a path where you can avoid having interactions with law enforcement. And so, like I said, I want to see all races succeed right across the board, but we do have to preach this common sense and make sure that people can understand. But you're right, when somebody is in a bad frame of mind and they are going mad, you're right. It's very hard to actually exercise that notion of common sense. You're right. Yeah, when we are angry, we are detached from common sense and detached from self-control. We have none. And so that's right. Are you a Christian, Colby? Yes,
nice.
Absolutely.
Well, I appreciate hearing from you. It's great to hear from you.
My pleasure, brother. And tell Jesse that I said hi, and next week I'm going to do some snow goose hunting, God willing, and the creek don't rise, of course. Okay, good luck. Happy hunting. Thank you. Hey, thank you, brother. You have a blessed day. Thank you, man. You as well. Take care. Nice guy. Right on. Dark Side of the Bear White says, I forgot to mention the Hake Report. Maze said, lice love dirty hair, meaning a louse loves dirty hair. And that's why blacks don't get it, but it's the opposite. Lice love clean hair, and if it's whites only get it, she is admitting blacks have nappy hair. Nappy doesn't mean dirty necessarily. Anyway, I'm going to get to more calls, and I will get to, hopefully, to Abe Lincoln, Honest Abe. After this quick break, guys, couple of minutes here, I will be right back. Hang tight.
Perfect way. I want to be with you all of the time. I want to be with you. I want to be with you all of the time. I want to be with you. I want to be with you all of the time. I want to be with you.
So, Turtle No Neck says, lesbians. With the super chat. Thank you, man. I will be checking the Streamlabs, streamlabs.com/The Hake Report. Thank you guys for the support. Appreciate it. You can donate through Streamlabs or through Trovo, trovo.live/The Hake Report. It might take some figuring out, though, on how to do it. But appreciate that. That's cool. Okay, let me get to a couple of calls here. Gabriel, and is this Gabriel from Toronto, Canada? Wants to comment on this woman. How do I pronounce it again, Nick? Jabril. From Toronto, Canada, wants to comment on the woman who was shot by cops in front of her children. Gabriel from Toronto.
Yes.
Jabril.
Yeah.
Good to hear from you again. How are you doing?
I'm well, thank you.
Nice.
So, yeah, I mean, this is unfortunate, but you know what? I don't blame the cops because I had some security training back in the day, and we were taught that when people under influence, and it looked like she was under influence. I'm not sure if it's drugs, but she looked like she was possessed.
Yeah.
And did you see the size of the knife?
It looked pretty big to me.
That thing can do so much damage in a very short period of time. And what I'm trying to say, yeah, she's a woman, but when you possess, you hold insane strength, like insane. Even though after they shot her, they said that she still held the knife. I mean, what, shoot her in a hand? Like, what movies they watching? You know?
I know, yeah.
So it's unfortunate, but I wanted to say that she, like, you see, if God allows us to see that, He shows that this is a result of this problem that we have, and she's just like a, what do you call it, a peak that she, like, you know, when there's no way back. But I wanted to say to, can I say that word, slot makers?
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to say that, guys, betas, when they do what they do, this is what happens with women. We have to take ownership. We have to get the woman under control. We are responsible for them. We cannot let this happen. And because, you see, again, I'm going back. As a Muslim, I see Jesse, what he's trying to do as the only way to get out of the mess that we are in right now. We have to drop the anger. Man has to become alpha again, and this whole thing will disappear.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that's true.
System is made currently is completely against the alpha male.
Right.
And as a result, we see these things. And then children of the lie, what they do is they hijack the event and they put their spin narrative.
Yep.
And they're trying to even more bring insanity through laws and stuff like that.
Very true.
But the very first caller you had, he was right on. Like, I mean, a true man. Like, and then there was a second caller who got all emotional. Elliot was his name. Like, he, like, beta, you know, like, see what's happening and then take ownership.
Yeah.
And stop, like, getting all emotional and stuff.
Yeah, I totally agree.
That's that.
It's Jabril, right?
Yeah, it's Jabril in Arabic, Jabrail in Russian, Gabriel in the rest of the world.
Okay, so I can call you Gabriel, but it's also Jabril. Jabril.
Yeah, Jabril. If you say Jabril, it's I get goosebumps, which is good.
Nice.
Good.
That's cool.
And then there's another thing is you wanted to ask me because there's somebody commented that I was deceiving previously calling.
Yeah, because you're Muslim and you were talking about Jesus and you were talking about you agree with the Christians and the root is anger and Muslims tend to overreact and they have the same issue of anger. And somebody said that you were participating in taqiyya. That's where you can lie. Yeah. That's where you can lie to the infidel.
Yeah. Well, all those are accusations, and God speaks in the Quran. Allah, He says, when you hear somebody claiming something, or when you go to claim something, bring the truth. Yeah. Then there was a last caller. He called in and he started accusing Prophet Muhammad about all kinds of garbage.
Right.
But I just wanted to say to people, don't get distracted. I mean, look, propaganda. Unfortunately, I say that in America or Western world, not all, but most, they don't know Islam, the true Islam. They don't know. Religions, they were hijacked by the children of the light from the beginning. Antichrist or whatever existed from the beginning of the days. Cain and Abel, when one killed his own brother, whatever, I forgot who killed who, but that thing began from the beginning, and we have to be aware of that. I mean, if I call for peace and love, if I call for unity, am I deceiving? Logic and reason, put it on, But what I see is when they divide Christianity and Islam, or even Jewish people, true Jewish people, I'm talking about, who follow Torah. I'm not talking about other Jews who completely don't follow the religion but call themselves Jews.
Yeah.
In the Quran, they're people of the book. For example, Moses got Torah. It's message from the God. Isa, Jesus, got Injil. But Injil does not exist in the written form. They created this Bible, what was the question, biblical question? Jesse's biblical question, when did they start preaching from the Bible, right?
Yeah, when did they start saying that you have to have a Bible in church as a preacher?
I don't know for sure, but I have a suspicion. 300 years after Jesus was gone, we don't believe he was killed because you cannot kill the prophet. But after he was gone, there was a council of Nicaea in Constantinople where the Romans leader, Caesar was it, whatever, they get together all Christians, but many didn't went for that appointment there, and they started a doctrine. I believe there they decided that, okay, let's preach Hupul and Hala, But anyways, in the Quran, God speaks how dare they know the truth about Jesus, but they lie about him, and God said the day will come and they will be accountable for their lies, But anyways, it doesn't matter. What I'm saying is, if I call for peace and love, for common sense and men rising, I don't know, if you call that a deception, I don't know what's the motive behind it. After all, I know that, Russian farmer in a village has nothing against American farmer in America. But we were, by this lying media, I think it's part of Antichrist, but whatever. I think they creating this agitation. They need to let the conflict go, so we're all in that state of anger. And it's so obvious if one wants to see, unbelievable. But anyways,
you're from Chechnya, right? Originally?
Yeah, from Chechnya. We were used for the same reason. We fought Russia for some, I don't know, around 8 years, 10 years, and a lot of people died. You see, you know what?
When was Chechnya fighting Russia?
It started in 1994. They started storming our capital city, Grozny, and then I believe it went all the way to 98, all the way to maybe 2000. Then we became in the mountains. Because we were outnumbered, we didn't have weapons like Russians. But
how old are you, if you don't mind my asking?
I'm 36. I came to Canada when I was 16. But what I'm saying is, I first bombings I was there, right? As a children, we don't see it as evil. But, I have to, if I can make that point, when bombing took place, we children, we didn't understand what was going on. And when I look at my father, he was calm, right?
Yeah.
He was doing his things, basement and everything. He was calm. But when I look at my mother, she was bringing out the fear and what do you call it? Fear, because she got so emotional. And now when Jesse Lee Peterson speaks, we got to become men again. I'm right on. You know, I went through all that. I see it, and...
so you were raised by both parents to be Muslim?
I was, but, maybe I should save it for the Jesse call. But
how did Chechnya become Muslim?
Well, back in the day, we were what do you call them, who believed in nature, because we were people of land. We were like farmers, goats,
so you were
etc.
you were like pagans before? believing in nature?
Yeah. But then what happened is when Muslims, you see, people don't know history. The Golden Spain, like when Muslims moved to Spain because Christians and Jews asked help from the Pope who was crucifying them, killing them, burning them, Muslims moved towards Italy, and they wanted to go through Caucasus, like where we are, but we didn't let them.
You guys didn't let the Muslims go through?
Yeah, we didn't let them go through, but their trace, their knowledge, because they spoke to us, right, about the God and stuff.
Yeah.
I think that's where it started.
Okay.
But,
so the Arab Muslims turned the Caucasian Chechens into Muslims.
Yeah, but not through war,
Just
Even
by
though
talking.
we did fight Ottomans, we fought Ottomans.
Yeah.
Ottomans killed many of us. But then again, look, any war, it's organized situation by Iblis. Iblis, it's the jinn. It's off the jinn. It's devil, right? So he wants war. He wants real men die out, and then he knows that beta males will come about.
Interesting.
Next few generations. And
That
God
seems,
says,
you know
like,
what?
I'll
That seems
curse
like
you.
what happened after the World War II. Interesting. I hadn't
It's
really
by
considered
design,
it like
I'm
that.
telling you, like it's by design. Like they need to get the men out, and then by default we're gonna get beta males, and as a result, you know, we have a mess when woman is shot on the street.
Yeah, I mean, there's.
Kids.
I'm thinking
Who
about.
to blame, you know?
I'm thinking about the version of morality that people have today, where they get all upset and hot and bothered about slavery. Oh, it's so terrible. Or kids in cages. I don't know how anybody falls for that, because who cares?
Slavery, it was business. It has nothing to do about hating other people. Like there were white slaves, but you know how it became? When you have a family who cannot support themselves, and then there's a wealthy man, he's like, okay, work on the field, I'll provide.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, it's slavery, you know?
Right.
But then when they got on the feet, they got enough knowledge, they could go and buy their land, you know? It wasn't like it against it. Yeah,
Right.
children of the light always trying to spin the narrative, but then we have to, once you alpha, you see it. You're not, you know, like you scream automatically. You're not bothered by that. You're not distracted by it. You know, you do what's right.
All right. Well, I appreciate talking with you, Gabriel. Nice to hear from you again.
No problem, James. God bless you all, guys.
All right. You too. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Interesting. Let me before I get to this Karl Marx and Abe Lincoln situation that is written about by liberals who are pro-communist, but that's just a side note. Let me first get to Glen, a first-time caller in New York, wants to comment on secular humanism versus Christianity. Glen, what's up? How are you?
Hey, great.
Nice.
Or well, as you guys say.
Great is fine.
Yeah,
men can be great.
Shows we've been we've been watching the shows for a while. I hear a lot of people talk about, you know, you guys ask them, are you Christians? And then them bringing up what they hear in church or what they're told in church, and I guess kind of leading towards that biblical question earlier that Jesse was saying, is I hear people saying, I heard this or I read this. Well, it seems like some of the, you know, and you guys are showing there that those are some of the quotes are wrong, first of all.
Yeah.
And it kind of seems like the people are being deceived by the churches. And so I started looking into this a little more, and there's something called secular humanists.
Yes.
That believe that we can achieve on our own, without the belief of God, morality and self-fulfillment. That's their thing.
That's Tower of Babel stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely. And it's really interesting to hear it. I think the show it's enlightening for me because I can hear where the people are just, you know, you hear your own deceptions.
Yeah.
Maybe in the past or present as people are talking about them, and it kind of shows itself. The lies are showing themselves. So I really appreciate the show.
That's cool.
And keep on it, man. You guys are doing a great job.
Appreciate it, Glenn.
But check that out.
Secular humanism. Okay.
Yeah.
Will do. Thank you, man.
I appreciate it, man. Keep up the good work, guys.
You too, Glenn. Thank you. Take care.
All right. Love you guys.
All right. Yeah, secular humanism, that's part of the communism push. And a whole bunch of so-called Christians, including nice conservative like regular boomer Christians. And I love boomers, by the way. Fall for this stuff. Feminism, all kind, and they don't even think of themselves as feminists or remotely communist. They consider themselves to be anti-communist or anti-feminist. Sometimes they think of themselves as anti-racist, though, and that's another ploy. It's another lie. Which brings me to this far-left, Enemies of America, Washington Compost, hat tip Mark Levin, article that says, know who was into Karl Marx? Not AOC, which, yes, of course, Cortez is into him if she knows anything, right? Abraham Lincoln. And I don't know if Abraham Lincoln was into Karl Marx, like they're pretending. But the subheader of this article that came out a couple years ago, July 27th, 2019, Washington Compost, by Jillian Brockwell, who's like a young, hip communist writer. I call her a communist. The two men were friendly, and I use the term men loosely, right? Abraham Lincoln, maybe a man, right? But Karl Marx, he was an atheist. And you have to be an atheist in order to believe in socialism. It's the basis of Marxism, atheism. Secular humanism, as you might say. But they were friendly and influenced each other, according to this. I have some screenshots of Abe Lincoln's, this whole thing on Abe Lincoln and some of the characters around him. He was in the 1800s, right? He was the 16th president? Yeah. And he's the one who freed the slaves. He did the Emancipation Proclamation. He did not want the country to be broken apart. He did not want to allow the South self-determination to secede from the Union and start their own country, the Confederate States of America. No, a house divided against itself cannot stand, which is a quote from Jesus talking about Satan. How can Satan drive out Satan? So it seems like a funny reference. But anyway, Abe Lincoln, I heard that, never mind, let me get to that later, what I heard about Abe Lincoln. He sent his first annual message in December 1860. That's not it. What the heck? You're showing the, did I put that in the wrong folder? He's showing this 30-year-old mentally ill Filipino-born guy who became a Navy veteran. If you were watching the video, you saw a picture of this guy, and it was a headline about this. Bay Area Navy veteran died after police officer knelt on his neck during a mental health call. But, I mean, this guy was, like, bear-hugging his mother, who he's 30 years old. What's he doing hanging around his mother? And 18-year-old sister. Anyway. I told you guys about it in Hake News. Here's some pictures from the old times. This is the editorial staff of the New York Tribune that many say was highly influential on the Republicans and the former Whigs, because Abraham Lincoln was a Whig and then he moved over to the Republicans. I don't know if he founded the Republican Party. It sounded like he didn't. He just popularized it, I guess. But Horace Greeley is a guy, I think he's third from left. Well, that's what they say. He's third from left. This is when he was younger, I guess. And the fourth guy, the guy in the middle, yeah, there's Horace Greeley, all old and fat and white-haired and looking like I wouldn't trust him. But the guy in the middle, Charles A. Dana, is standing in the center. And that guy, I think, was a German socialist, communist, maybe, in the 1840s, 50s, 60s. Anyway, when Abe Lincoln sent his so-called State of the Union, what would later become kind of a State of the Union annual message to the House and Senate, he railed against disloyal citizens rebelling against the Union. I think that's referring to the South, touting the strength of the Army and Navy, spent a chunk of his words on what the Chicago Tribune, subversive outlet maybe, subtitled Capital versus Labor. And he said labor is prior to and independent of capital. That's what Abe Lincoln said. Capital is only the fruit of labor and could never have existed if labor had not first existed. Labor is the superior of capital. I don't think so. Because you can work and grind your gears and not do much. Labor is not inherently valuable if you're laboring at something evil, right? But anyway, capital and labor deserves much higher consideration over capital, meaning that capital means value, stuff of value, right? Anyway, and actually human beings are capital. Just showing up to work can be quite valuable, because then you can do and handle different things, or showing up to a situation. Just the mere thing of showing up, and then you handle stuff as it goes. Isn't that interesting? So they're putting so-called labor above capital, but that's putting it above human beings. Interesting, just side note. Pro-communist hype. There was major, and this is supposedly that term, that Abraham Lincoln's line about all this capital over labor and labor over capital. That's a Karl Marx type line. And Karl Marx, they were contemporaries with Abraham Lincoln. So this lady who's writing this article is going after Trump for saying, that's why they wrote this article, Trump saying a vote for any Democrat in 2020 is a vote for the rise of radical socialism. Cortez and these female congressmen of color, females, Jillian's words, of color, are a bunch of communists. And he's right. They're enemies of America. They're enemies of freedom, of morals, of humanity. They're pro-abortion, pro-same-sex marriage. It's ridiculous. The first Republican president for whom Trump has Honest Abe, whom Trump touted as Honest Abe and compared himself to, honestly. He was surrounded by socialists and looked to some of them for counsel, according to this article, right? But Trump is a normal boomer. He's not into this stuff. And by the way, most boomers are not normal, but Trump is a normal one, which makes him unique. This lady falsely claims that Pelosi and Schumer, nervous Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, are not socialists, communists, or Marxists, which is an utter lie. They are. They're definitely tools of it. They're stepping stones to it. They've done nothing but usher in evil into the country and lies. So yes, they are. Just because they pretend to be not as radical, they're evil. It's good versus evil, and if you replace the word communism for evil, that's what they are. Lincoln and Marx, born 9 years apart. Many mutual friends. Read each other's work, supposedly. 1865, they exchanged letters, according to the Washington Compost. Lincoln served his sole term in Congress in the 1840s. Young lawyer from Illinois. Reminds me of Barack Obama. They became close friends with this Horace Greeley guy that I showed you, who was involved in this newspaper, the New York Tribune. A fellow Whig, W-H-I-G, they gave way to the Republicans, right? Wonder what the Republicans are going to give way to, if they give way. Greeley was the founder of New York Tribune, largely responsible for transmitting the ideals and ideas that formed the Republican Party in 1854. Anti-slavery, pro-worker, sometimes overtly socialist, according to John Nichols, who is another probably a subversive person, right? Author of The S Word, Socialism, right? A Short History and American Tradition, Socialism. They championed the redistribution of land in the American West to the poor and the emancipation of slaves. And you know what? Like, Marx thought that wage labor was just another form of slavery. What inherently is evil about slavery? I don't know, but Marx is evil. He was an atheist. In January 1865, Marx wrote to Lincoln on behalf of the International Working Men's Association, a group for socialists, communists, anarchists. See? Anarchists. They're not right-wing necessarily. And trade unions to congratulate the American people upon your re-election. He said an oligarchy, this is Marx writing, an oligarchy of 300,000 slaveholders had defiled the republic. As if this guy knows anything about defilement. He doesn't even believe in God. What does he know about morals? And the working men of Europe feel sure that as the American War of Independence initiated a new era of ascendancy for the middle class, so the American anti-slavery war will do for the working class. Isn't that interesting? This guy was a cheerleader. Karl Marx was a cheerleader for the Civil War, which would take 600,000 American lives. 600,000 lives lost. See? Communism. killing the people. And Lincoln considered Marx and company friends, supposedly. I mean, he may use the term loosely. Hasn't Trump called Kim Jong-un his friend? I don't know if he has. But he, as a politician, you act nice to people. Marx was also friends with Charles A. Dana, that socialist fluent in German, who was the managing editor of the Tribune. And Dana, in 1852, hired Marx to be the newspaper's British correspondent. Marx wrote nearly 500 articles for this New York Tribune paper. What the heck? Lincoln was an avid reader of the Tribune, and many nascent Republicans were too. So it's nearly guaranteed in the 1850s, Lincoln regularly read Marx. Marx rejected, as I said, wage labor as another form of slavery, but Lincoln was for wage labor. Marx once considered going west himself to Texas, according to some historian, Robin Blackburn. And I have a picture of this Robin Blackburn guy. He's 80 years old now, so he wasn't around when Marx was alive. An Unfinished Revolution, Karl Marx and Abraham Lincoln, this British guy. Robin, it's a male. So these historians, you can't exactly trust them, but I think there's some truth to it, some facts to it, at least. Marx was intensely interested in the plight of American slaves. January 18th, because he thought that he can use them. Just like the unions, as Jesse Lee Peterson had said. When he was a union guy, Jesse Lee Peterson, in his Fallen State days, and they knew to go after the disgruntled, the angry employees, because they are more easily suckered and useful for activism and forming unions and getting political power for themselves. Shameful. So this Marx guy, he was a misguided person, evil. Anyway, he was also into what's going on. Oh, he even mentioned John Brown. January 1860, Marx told his co-author of the Communist Manifesto, right, Friedrich Engels or something like that, that the two biggest things happening in the world were, on one hand, the movement of the slaves in America started by the death of John Brown, that terrorist that I mentioned, misguided terrorist, wanted to end slavery, ended up killing some Americans, trying to subvert the rule of law, kind of like a, what are those, the abortion clinic bombers. People who bomb abortion clinics or kill abortion doctors. I thought you were pro-life. I thought you were for what's right. You're not. Same with John Brown, a terrorist. Same with that Timothy McVeigh guy. Killed a bunch of innocent people just because they worked for the government. Nominally innocent people, right? Anyway. Other communists, socialist order and frequent presidential candidate Eugene V. Debs made a campaign stop in Springfield, Illinois in 1908. He told the crowd, the Republican Party was once red. Lincoln was a revolutionary. And then Martin Luther King Jr. in February 1968, at a so-called celebration of the life of W.E.B. Du Bois at Carnegie Hall, which I guess that's in honor of him after he died or something like that. I don't know. But nothing to celebrate with regard to W.E.B. Du Bois. That was like, he was involved in the NAACP I told you about last week, and he was pushing this anti-lynching stuff, but he was constantly, as the great Tuskegee Institute founder guy, what's that guy's name? Anyway, he's on the T-shirt for Men's History Month. Anyway, he wrote Up From Slavery. Somebody help me out here. Booker T. Washington. Thank you, Nicolas. Booker T. Washington warned about people like W.E.B. Du Bois, who just constantly kept, grievances, black grievances, racism. Because that's all W.E.B. Du Bois said. King was into. King brought up that the co-founder of the NAACP, W.E.B. Du Bois, the National Association Against Colored People, right, became a communist in his later years, and yet he rejected America. It's worth noting, MLK said, Reverend Martin Luther King Jr., that Abraham Lincoln warmly welcomed the support of Karl Marx during the Civil War. I mean, who wouldn't welcome any support, right? But anyway, and corresponded with him freely. Our irrational, obsessive anti-communism has led us into too many quagmires to be retained as if it were a mode of scientific thinking. Well, communism is anti-God, and it's a false imitation of morality. They say, oh, slavery is the only evil. Racism is the only evil. These made-up things. Sexism is the only evil. Classism. Nope. You don't replace God or morals with your false version of morality. But, you know, female-minded people fall for it. Anyway, that's, isn't that interesting? Abe Lincoln, I didn't even think of him as living around the same time as Karl Marx, much less writing to each other. Marx always trying to meddle his fingers in other worlds. And they didn't know what Marx would become or what he would come to represent, the kind of people that he would, who would follow him and take his misguided ideas and kill all kinds of people. Lincoln didn't know about all the murders. He didn't know about the Holodomor. It hadn't happened yet, and all that stuff. So it's kind of silly to pretend that the communism of back then was the same as the communism of now. But I think even back then, obviously back then, it was still misguided. Anyway, interesting. Just thought I would share that with you. Rick in Hampton, Virginia, been on hold for some time, wants to comment on that woman who was shot. Rick, how are you doing?
What? Hey, Brother James, how you doing?
I'm doing fine. How are you?
Just want to say I'm fine. Keep up the good work, man.
Thank you.
Y'all doing a great job keeping people informed, man. I didn't even see that video. Did that video make the media?
Yeah, I didn't see it in the media. I only saw it on the Jesse Lee Peterson show.
That's why
the video of the woman who charged the man with a knife and then got shot. It's probably making the media now. It seems like relatively new to a lot of people.
Yeah, it is. I didn't know about that video till today.
Yeah. I don't even know when this thing actually happened. Where the woman single mother apparently, charged cops with a knife and shouted Allahu Akbar, or sounded like she shouted that. Weird.
Wow. Islam, I don't care. You know, I don't go around hating Muslims, but it's an evil faith, man. It's evil. You know, every religion don't have a problem with God. It's Jesus Christ catch hell. That's what people don't want to believe. You know, what all the miracles he done.
Yeah.
You know, and I have never seen radical Muslims. You can have Muslims blowing up places, but you hardly ever hear them condemn them. No, you know what I mean?
Yeah, they're more concerned about Islamophobia than the actual attacks. It's just like blacks are more concerned about white racism than the reason that they're catching the suspicion, which is the out of control crime that's so out of proportion compared to their population, and so this is why blacks are resented more than the crime. It's the endless cries of racism.
Right, and that's what you can go here, especially go to CNN. You probably hear a black reporter or a journalist or interviewer say either white supremacist or racist about 10 times within that little interview they got.
Yep. Within
10, not racism, you know what I mean? Like,
very subversive.
Anything you want to do, man. It's just like, they just use that constantly. Matter of fact, you heard of Jason Whitlock, the sports analysis guy?
Yeah. He's kind of heavy set, but fairly conservative and sensible for the most part. Yeah,
very sensible, man. I like how he just when he was him and the Roland Marmos debating, and you know how Roland Marmos, his eyes get to pop out his head, get to jump across the table if you don't agree with him.
Right.
But but Jason, he just laid back, never get upset, and that makes him even more mad.
Yeah, that's true. That's funny. He does have that kind of personality, that Jason Whitlock guy.
Yeah, he just
I've seen him on Tucker Carlson's show.
Yeah.
Interesting.
That's him. He just I like how he does. I mean, that's how you got to debate rolling, or even that Chris Cuomo is don't overreact.
Yes.
Let them scream and shout and make themselves look bad, and they realize they really overreacting. God convicts their heart, and then man still never got upset, and even you was attacking them.
Nice.
He didn't get upset.
Right on.
You know. So
I like
other
that.
than that, them police officers too, man. They was justified. If I was on the jury, they completely justified, man.
Yeah.
They done everything. They were very patient. They even tased the woman, and it didn't even work.
I heard one,
Uh-huh.
of course. I heard one expert say in years past, that if a person holding a knife is within 10 feet of you, it's like a 50-50 chance because they can cross that distance and stick you, meaning stab you.
Yeah.
And you can't get off a shot necessarily.
That deputy.
Yeah.
He was running full speed at that deputy, man. I mean,
Right.
I think he even ran.
Right. I saw that.
You know, he even ran.
And he was not wrong for doing that. You don't want to get cut because if you get cut, you lose blood, you lose strength. You're a sitting duck.
Man, you know what, James? I'd rather get shot than get stabbed.
I'd rather get neither. I heard that when you get stabbed, it feels like a punch.
It's just like...
And then it hurts later.
To me, stabbing is slow. You know, they stick you, you know, but a gun is pow, get help, you know. I mean, I'm like you too, Jay. I don't want neither one, but I think I'd rather get shot than somebody stab me, man. But it depends how long that knife. That's like one of them knives you hunting with.
Yeah. Joelle says if she didn't go down on a taser from being tased, she was possessed.
That's right.
Or on something, which is the same thing, right? Almost. I think it might be the same thing.
And tasing, you got to have the two-man rule. You can't apply a taser unless another police officer is there.
Yeah.
Because he's going to be your cover man, just like what happened when he tased her and it didn't work.
Right.
And she went after him. He was there to stop the threat.
Yep.
That's a good partner, man. He saved his partner life.
Yeah.
That's the kind of fun I want.
I'm
a police officer.
Stay close to your phone, Rick. You kind of went muffled there.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, that's the kind of partner I like, man, because ain't nothing worse than he'll let that woman cut him up like some steak.
I know.
And then he's so... I've been mad at her. I said, why you showed her?
You know what's funny is I don't know if it's funny, but I was looking at the video and I saw her chasing after the guy she had the knife and she was chasing after the guy with the taser and he ran. And I saw his partner come up behind and shoot her, right? And they were off the camera. So I'm like, oh, shoot, but he's taking a risk because he could hit his partner because it's in the same general direction, right? So you just got to be careful and not hit his partner. But this woman wants him to shoot her in the arm. Like as if the taser didn't work, then a shot in the arm, if you even hit the arm, is not a solid... You hit people in the center of their mass and they're still coming at you sometimes.
That's what the police... That's what we are trained. Like when you go on correction or law enforcement, they tell you shoot, send a mask, because that way it's a bigger target.
Right.
And like you shoot somebody in the arm, fast as that one was moving, he wouldn't have been there and got a clean shot no way.
They say to... maybe this is too graphic. They say to shoot in the arm and then the head. I mean, not in the arm, in the center of mass, and then the head to finally stop them. But the head is a smaller target. But anyway.
Right. You know,
that may be a bit strong for the children. Actually, the children are not that emotional unless some of them are. But it's a bit rough. Pretty brutal.
You know, she put her kids on, I don't know if she was on drugs, whatever, man. But anyway, her sister come up there and she mentioned everything the police did, but didn't mention that one time that she chased them with a knife.
Right.
She didn't mention that.
Yeah.
I'm like, how you going to stand up there and say the police room? He didn't mention one time that they tased her, and then he chased the deputy with a knife. What were they supposed to do? Sit there and give her a Tootsie Roll pop?
Right. Yeah, and then there's these guys who think who think the cops should be all tough, and never mind the fact she has a knife. Because she's a woman, they should be able to handle her. It's not clear thinking. It's not clear thinking.
A knife is going about fast, man. That lady was running at that deputy full speed, man.
Yep.
And I mean, it happened so fast. And good thing he had a partner that was good with the gun and aimed right, and put it down. I mean,
I think they say you should not, I think there's some policy for many of these cops, if not all of them, is that you cannot use a taser unless you have a partner with lethal standing by, meaning a gun.
It's a two-man rule. You cannot, I don't know, but most police departments, even Brett and Tatum says you cannot use a taser unless you have another partner there.
Yeah.
That taser, you shoot that taser and it don't work, and that
guy attacks you.
That person look at you, they attack you, you dead.
And you know what?
That's
interesting because remember the situation with the Walter Scott case. Walter Scott, the man who got shot in the back after running from the cop and fighting him off. And they fought,
right.
I think they fought over the taser. It seemed like it. But you heard the taser going off.
I think.
Yeah, no, not Atlanta. It was in one of the Carolinas.
Oh, you're talking about,
Walter Scott got shot several times in the back while running away, and he was pretty far away from the cop when he was shot in the back. And the former officer, Michael Slager, was convicted of like second-degree murder or something. And people were overreacting to it like crazy. I remember Sean Hannity was overreacting because Jesse Lee Peterson, no, this is not even the one at Wendy's. This was years ago. This was 2014, I think, or so.
Yeah, the guy, he had on a white shirt, and
yep,
he was running. I think they put him off for unpaid child support or something.
No, I think it was plates. I think it was just plates. But they came to find out he had unpaid child support, and maybe that's why he ran.
That's why he ran.
Yeah,
he ran, and
his passenger never left the car, and he ended up being fine, not shot, not anything.
Now, that one I consider that a bad shoot.
Yeah,
he was running.
I suppose so, but that's interesting that a taser was involved and the cop was completely alone. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, and he shouldn't have. They tell you now if your life is on the line, that's all you got is your taser to save your life.
Well, he ended up pulling his gun after that.
Mm-hmm.
And just shot him in the back.
It's a two-man rule.
In the good old days, you could do that. But according to the Supreme Court in the 70s, I guess you can't shoot him in the back anymore, a fleeing suspect.
They consider fleeing. That's even someone breaking your house, James. Like if someone breaking your home and they fleeing and you shoot him in the back, they consider him no threat.
I don't know if I agree with that. I mean, I know that there's some malicious people out there who will just maliciously shoot somebody in the back after they've been like, okay, don't shoot me and I'm running away. But you can't be just letting people run wild, especially if they're fighting off a cop into the community. It just seems, seems sketchy.
I'm in agreement with you. I'm in agreement with you, James. But I'm just saying, when you go,
yeah, I know.
I went to take up a class. What do they call that?
Oh yeah, you can get in so much trouble for just self-defense or home defense.
Man, just self-defense. Man, just do some more. And if he could make it out to the backyard, they say he was fleeing. You got him in the back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm sorry, man. You know, somebody come in my house, man. I'm protecting my home.
Yeah, but you just
I'm gonna leave it like that.
Yeah. It's what a mess. What a corrupt culture we're in right now. Female-minded culture where you feel sorry for the criminals. Anyways, Rick, I appreciate it. Nice talking with you.
No problem. Always good talking to you, James. Love you guys. Keep up the good work, brother.
Thank you. Take care. Let me get to, I think it's Rafael out of Vancouver, Canada. Is it Rafael?
It's pronounced Rafael.
Rafael.
Like
okay. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, he spelled it Rafael. Okay. I thought that maybe you had called before because I feel like I've heard from a Rafael from up there. How do you spell it? How do you spell it? R-A-F-E-L?
I'm named after San Rafael, California, so it's
really?
R-A-F-A-E-L. Yep.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that it was pronounced that way. San Rafael, California. All right.
Yeah, apparently. I think that's just how white people say it. I think like anytime I meet
That's funny.
A Mexican, they are always like, that's not how you say it.
Yeah. What are you?
I'm white. My parents were born in California, both of them.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yep.
That's cool, man. Well, it's nice to hear. Have you called my show before?
Yeah, a couple times, man.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, always a pleasure.
Yeah. So what do you want to talk about?
Oh, man, I got some amazing questions.
Okay.
So I just saw this one video in my feed. This, you know, that kid that called you and tried to act all nice, and then end up being like a huge hater.
The one who
he called back and said sorry.
Okay. Somebody called back and said sorry. I'm not sure.
He called back.
Okay.
He's like, I'm sorry for being a white snake and stuff.
Oh, okay. Oh, you said kid. That threw me off. I was thinking like a young guy. But you're talking about one of the white guys who's called my show. We exchanged harsh words, and then later he called back and apologized. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, like one thing you said in that video really stuck out to me that is so true is, why do whites always like cut each other down? Like, what's up with that?
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, we're not united. Human beings are not united. Whites are not united, and honestly, they never will completely unite. Christians are not united. Yeah, it's true.
Right.
And you know what? The people on the side of good, I think it's partly because us who are trying to be on the side of good are not completely good. So we still have evil working in us. And so all things work together for evil, for those who don't actually love God. And so that's why evil seems to win out, because the stronger evil, the so-called stronger evil, the more evil wins out. That's why the country's given way to more and more and more and more evil. Anyway. Right? Yeah.
No, it's a great way of putting it. And it's kind of like pretty much my next question is like, you know, are humans inherently evil, or are we going to share and help each other in the end? Like, what's going to be the story of humanity 200 years from now when aliens are looking at us? Like,
I don't know, but I think that human beings are evil. I don't know if we're inherently evil or if we just get corrupted and everyone gets corrupted and most people never get uncorrupted. But yes, I think that evil is our dominant human nature is evil. Yeah. And I think that only after the few are born again do they become their natural good selves, normal selves. Normal is not typical. Normal is what's right? But most people are not normal. You'll notice that when you run in anybody that you run into, they're not normal. They're weird. They're off. They're angry. They're afraid. They're insecure. They will eventually turn on each other, and they're evil. But that's what's typical. So I think the majority will always be evil, but the minority of good can overcome evil if they're truly for what's right. But a lot of us are lukewarm or half-hearted and aren't 100% committed or whatever. I don't know exactly what the problem is, but we are not real Christians. We are not real people. We're not genuine, and we're not right for the most part.
Right?
Yeah.
For sure.
I don't know if aliens are coming in 200 years, though.
No, yeah, I'm not sure about that, too. But, you know what's funny? Like, this is why Christianity makes so much sense, because it teaches you to, like, humble yourself. Because, in a sense, as a species, we're fairly, like, primitive, you know? We're still, like, discovering ourselves. And the thing is, and this is kind of
Do you believe in evolution?
It's a tough one. I mean, I don't think we came from monkeys. I think there's something else going on with us. But
I was just curious
really.
Because you said that as a species we're so primitive. And what do you mean by primitive again? Like figuring stuff out? Do you think that humanity advances through time? By advances, I mean becomes like better?
Right? No.
Because I don't think human beings become better. I think we go in like waves. We get better, we get worse. We get better, we get worse. I mean human beings in general.
Yeah, or we go in circles. We repeat history.
A little bit, yeah. I think it's like a wave. I'm not sure.
That's true. Like, But even with religion, if you look back in like Europe, they condemned religion like when Karl Marx came out, and then society got so screwed that then there was like the Renaissance where everyone was like, oh, we're all so screwed, we need Christianity again.
Right.
So maybe that's the way right now is like society is godless. Like,
yep,
we're godless.
I think we're mostly like blind leading the blind.
Right.
That's what Marx was. That's what so many of our presidents and so-called leaders, including the preachers, have been, is just blind leading the blind.
Mm.
Yeah. How long have you been in Canada?
I was born here. Like, my dad pretty much ran here because he didn't want to fight in Vietnam.
Oh, okay. That's funny. All right.
Yeah. And then,
how old are you?
I'm 31.
Okay.
Yeah. But, yeah, like, I know, because one of the truest things that you and Jesse both say is that, you know, you can suffer and die. Like, what you guys say is the right thing. And what that, you know, that hater caller was trying to say to you was like, oh, but your life isn't this and that, so how can you say this?
Right.
And that's how society is now, Hake. Isn't it crazy? Like, I can literally stand here and say, Hake, 1 + 1 is 2, or, you know, like the most basic thing, like Christianity is good.
Yeah.
Or like a woman should, like, oh, the caller earlier, when Jesse just simply, like, Joel and Jesse's argument was a perfect example of this. Like, Jesse said, you know, but then she should just obey her husband, right?
Right.
And
her husband is not trying to get her to murder anybody, but she's bringing up that extreme example as though that's a reason not to, as though there's more reasons not to listen to her husband. Anyway, go on.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. No. So essentially my point is, like, as a Christian, what you and Jesse are isn't necessarily like a perfect, sinless, perfect person that, you know, practices 100% of everything what they preach. But what you guys are beacons of light that at least communicate good. You know what I mean? Like, at least you have to start from somewhere. And, like, if I can't say to someone on the phone, like, you should obey your husband, and I get a huge amount of pushback from that,
yeah,
then, you know what I mean? Like, it's just people can't see right and wrong now. Like, it is good and evil, but people can't even see what's good and what's evil.
Right. Yep. It's true. And you're right. You don't have to just, if you see something is wrong, you can still say it's wrong. Just because you have wrong happening in your life too doesn't mean you should shut up until you get that wrong fixed. I don't think that that's what it meant by saying take the plank out of your own eye before you take the speck out of your brother's eye. People take that saying to extremes where you just stay shut up. Yeah, clean your room before you try to clean up the world. People just stay shut up in some cases and not even deal with politics. There's like Christians who don't even think we should be involved with politics. It's ridiculous. Anyway, Rafael, right? That's how you pronounce it? Rafael?
Yeah.
I appreciate hearing from you.
No worries, man. Oh, one more killer question.
Okay.
So, you know, and I know all the people in chat, even yourself or anyone listening, goes through this a lot, which is cancel culture. Like, how do you stand up when you'll get canceled? You know, like, we can lose our jobs for standing up. Hey, we can, like, right. Your job is you're blessed that you can actually speak the Lord's word and just do what's right every day.
Yeah.
But for our average person, like, for me, like, I work for Beta, you know, like, I work for
That's why
people. Like, I can't stand up, Hake. Like, I literally cannot stand up, or else my.
That's why you need wisdom to know when and how to speak up. Does that make sense? You have to have wisdom to know for yourself when to do it and how to do it. But as JLP has said, whites value their stuff and don't want to even suffer the consequences. Losing a job is a light and momentary, what is that? Suffering compared to what many Christians have suffered for doing what's right. But there's a time and place to do that. So you just have to be wise in how you do it. Anyway, Rafael,
okay,
appreciate it. Good to hear from you.
Yeah, you too, boss. Thanks.
All right, take care. the rest of the callers. Craig, a first-time caller in Colorado, wants to talk about why evil is so strong, but I cannot get to you and the rest of the callers. Give me a call tomorrow if you can. Tomorrow is Thursday. Today is Wednesday. It's 4 p.m. today. Sunday service throwback from 2012. I had to skip ahead. There were issues with the Blu-rays of all things. Blu-ray discs. Unreadable. I thought those things were supposed to be more stable. We should have stuck with the DVD recordings. Anyway, so we had to skip to 2012. We were in 2010. Beginning to mid-2010. Anyway, I'm a little annoyed at that, but we get to still enjoy throwback Sunday services, 4 p.m. Pacific time. Rebuildingtheman.com/church. Subscribe to Bond Rebuilding the Man YouTube channel on the Bond. That's the church channel. Question: how do you stand up when paraplegic? Asked Marcus Jones Stinks. It's a good question. I'll have to think about that. I'll have to sleep on it. All right, guys. TheHakeReport.com for my stuff. Rebuildingtheman.com/church for the Throwback Sunday service and silent prayer and church with Jesse Lee Peterson, and subscribe and donate, all that stuff. And JesseLeePeterson.com for JLP. Thanks, guys. Take care.
Yeah.